President Trump is answering your questions about Epstein. He's answered them over and over and over again. Who we haven't heard from is Bill Clinton. And I stated why. The amount of time that Epstein spent with Clinton while he was president and post-presidency. So I don't think it's out of line for former President Clinton to come in for a bipartisan subpoena and sit down and answer questions.
Republicans in House of Representatives are absolutely losing it right now, and it's because federal judge just dropped an order that's making them panic. Judge Annalisa Torres in Southern District of New York just responded to letter from Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna and Republican Thomas Massie about Epstein files. And what Judge ordered is making MAGA Republicans freak out, because Judge told Trump administration they have to respond to request about appointing independent monitor to oversee production of Epstein documents. That means Trump regime can't just keep hiding these files, can't keep violating Epstein Transparency Act without consequences. And MAGA leaders on Capitol Hill are scrambling to change subject, to distract, to deflect, because they know what's in those files could destroy Trump and everyone protecting him. But real quick, before we get into this, let's be honest. You can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built John Brown Show, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, please subscribe, because you might think you are but aren't. Your subscription actually matters here. All right, let's get into what actually happened, because context matters here. Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie led effort to pass Epstein Files Transparency Act, brought discharge petition that forced vote, got it passed with bipartisan support. Law requires Trump administration to release Epstein documents, but Trump regime has violated that law. They've produced about 1% of files, just tiny fraction. Rest is being hidden, being redacted, being covered up. Share this video with everyone you know. So Khanna and Massie sent letter to federal judge who oversees Ghislaine Maxwell case. Asked to intervene, requested that judge appoint special master or independent monitor to oversee production of documents, because Department of Justice under Trump has turned into racketeering enterprise, covering up child trafficking ring. Can't trust them to release files honestly. Need independent oversight, someone who's not protecting Trump. And Judge Torres responded this morning, issued order telling Trump regime they have to respond to Khanna and Massie's request, have to explain their position on non-compliance with Transparency Act, have to address whether independent monitor should be appointed. That's huge. That's federal judge taking seriously the argument that Trump administration is covering up Epstein files. And it's putting MAGA Republicans in impossible position, because how do you defend hiding files about child trafficking? MAGA Republicans on Capitol Hill went into full panic mode, started holding press conferences trying to change narrative. First up was James Comer, chair of House Oversight Committee, guy who's supposed to be investigating wrongdoing. And what did Comer say about Trump regime hiding Epstein files? He said everything's great. Department of Justice is doing everything right. They're cooperating, producing documents. This is transparency American people want. Think about what that means. Comer stood there with straight face and claimed that releasing 1% of documents is compliance, that violating law passed by Congress is cooperation, that covering up child trafficking ring is transparency. It's insane. It's gaslighting. And it shows how desperate MAGA Republicans are to protect Trump. Comer said Democrats are unhappy because there aren't enough redactions. Like, that's the problem, not that files are being hidden, but that Democrats want less redacted. Then Comer pivoted to his real strategy, distraction. Said the key thing here is we're subpoenaing Bill Clinton. That's his big announcement. Going to hold Clinton in contempt if he doesn't show up. Make this about Clinton's, not about Trump. Classic MAGA playbook. When you can't defend the indefensible, change subject, attack someone else. Pretend real problem is over there, not right in front of you. Make sure you're subscribed to John Brown Show. And then Comer attacked Hakeem Jeffries, Democratic leader who's been calling out MAGA Republicans for covering up child trafficking ring. Comer said Jeffries needs therapy, said he should go to Somali Therapy Center. That's what Comer said, Somali Therapy Center. Racist dog whistle while defending cover-up of child trafficking. That's where Republican Party is right now. Can't defend on merit, so attack with racism and deflection. Speaker Mike Johnson joined the distraction campaign. Started talking about Trump's credit card interest cap proposal. Said Trump's the ideas guy. Comes up with lots of ideas. Doesn't mean they're real or will happen. But Trump's thinking about things. That's what matters. Johnson admitted Trump probably hadn't thought through consequences of capping interest rates. Said experts warn it could backfire. That credit card companies would just stop lending. That people relying on credit would be hurt. But Johnson framed this as Trump being innovative, as president exploring every option to help Americans, not as president making announcements about things he hasn't thought through and has no power to implement, because Trump can't cap credit card interest rates by executive order, would need legislation, would need Congress to pass law. And Johnson admitted they haven't built consensus for that, haven't done hearings, haven't figured out if it's even a good idea. So Trump announces something that sounds good, takes credit for helping Americans, but hasn't actually done anything and won't do anything. It's performance, it's fraud, it's conning people into thinking Trump's working for them when he's just making noise. And Johnson's job is to sell that con, to make it sound reasonable, to pretend Trump's chaotic announcements are actually thoughtful policy. Then Johnson was asked about Greenland, about Trump's threats to invade NATO ally. And Johnson said this is just media narrative. Nobody's actually considering invading Greenland. It's not in any briefings he's attended. This is media creating story that doesn't exist. But we can all hear what Trump says, what Stephen Miller says, what Caroline Leavitt says. They're the ones talking about Greenland, about all options being on table, about using military force if necessary. Share this with everyone because Johnson's trying to gaslight everyone into thinking Trump didn't say what Trump clearly said, that threats to invade ally are just media invention, that we're all imagining things. It's insulting, it's dishonest, and it shows Johnson knows Trump's Greenland obsession is politically toxic, so he's pretending it doesn't exist, hoping media will stop covering it, hoping voters will forget Trump threatened war with NATO. Steve Scalise jumped in with another distraction, started asking why prices were so high under Joe Biden. I'm not kidding. That's what House Majority Leader said. Biden's not president anymore. Trump's been in office for a year. But Scalise is asking about Biden's prices. Like Trump hasn't been in charge. Like Trump's policies haven't raised costs. Like tariffs aren't taxes on Americans that make everything more expensive. It's desperation. It's admission that MAGA Republicans have no defense for what's happening now. So they talk about previous administration. Try to make people remember when they were angry before. Hope that anger transfers to Democrats, even though Republicans control everything. It's transparent, it's pathetic, and it shows they know they're losing. Then Mike Johnson was asked about Trump launching criminal investigation into Jerome Powell, chairman of Federal Reserve, and Johnson tried to minimize it, said Powell's not the Fed. He's just individual, just one person. So what's the big deal if Trump's DOJ investigates him? Powell's chairman of Federal Reserve, most powerful central banker in world. Trump ordering criminal investigation of him because Powell won't cut interest rates is abuse of power. It's attempt to intimidate Fed into doing Trump's bidding. It's authoritarian move that should terrify everyone. But Johnson acts like it's no big deal. Just routine investigation into whether someone lied to Congress. Let DOJ do their work. If Powell's innocent, it'll come out. That's gaslighting, because everyone knows this isn't routine investigation. This is Trump weaponizing Justice Department against anyone who won't obey him. And Johnson's pretending it's normal, pretending markets should just accept it, pretending democracy isn't being destroyed. Think about what that means. And then Johnson did something truly disgusting. He defamed Renee Nicole Mellon Good, woman who was murdered by ICE agent. Johnson said she was taunting officers, impeding law enforcement, violating multiple laws, that agents were patient, asked her multiple times to move vehicle and she refused, said her partner was taunting officer, that it was crazy circumstances. And from angle, Johnson saw Renee revved engine, hit accelerator, hit ICE officer who reacted in split second. That's all lies. Video shows Renee was cooperative, talked to agents, said I'm not mad at you, smiled. Then other people started yelling and she decided to leave, started turning car away slowly, maybe 2 miles per hour. And ICE agent walked to front of car and shot her 3 times, in face, killed her. Then called her names as she bled out. That's what video shows. That's what witnesses say. That's what actually happened. But Johnson's lying about it. Blaming victim, justifying murder, because admitting ICE murdered American citizen would require accountability, would require admitting Trump's immigration crackdown has gone too far, would require acknowledging that federal agents are terrorizing communities and killing people. So Johnson lies, defames dead woman, protects killer. That's where Republican Party is. Then Johnson made another ridiculous claim, said everybody's buying big trucks again under Trump. That's what he said. Everybody's rich now. Everybody has disposable income. Everybody's buying big trucks because gas is under $3 and Trump restored American energy dominance. Who's buying big trucks? What Americans have all this extra money. Prices are up. Inflation is still high. People are struggling. But Johnson's claiming economic boom that doesn't exist. It's same con Trump always runs. Announce things that aren't happening. Take credit for improvements that aren't real. Hope people don't notice gap between rhetoric and reality. And hope that by time they do notice, you've moved on to next con. Johnson's job is to sell these cons, to make Trump's lies sound believable, to gaslight Americans into thinking their lived experience is wrong and Trump's claims are right. Now let's talk about why all this distraction is happening. Why MAGA Republicans are throwing everything at wall trying to change subject. It's because Judge Torres's order is devastating. It means federal court is taking seriously the argument that Trump administration is covering up Epstein files. That independent oversight might be needed. That DOJ can't be trusted to release documents honestly. If judge appoints special master or independent monitor, that person would have authority to review all Epstein documents, to determine what should be released under Transparency Act, to bypass DOJ's redactions and cover-ups, and that would expose what Trump regime has been hiding, would show connections between Trump and Epstein, would reveal who else is implicated, would destroy carefully constructed cover-up. That's why MAGA Republicans are panicking, why Comer's talking about Clinton, why Johnson's talking about big trucks, why Scalise is talking about Biden, why they're all desperately trying to make people focus on anything except Epstein files. Because those files are existential threat, not just to Trump, to everyone who's been protecting him, everyone who's been covering up child trafficking ring. Share this video because an response to Judge Torres's order is due soon. Trump administration has to explain why they haven't complied with law, has to justify releasing only 1% of documents, has to address whether independent monitor is necessary, and they don't have good answers. Can't say we're hiding files to protect Trump. Can't say we're covering up trafficking ring. Can't say we're violating law because we feel like it. So they'll probably claim national security. Say documents need extensive redaction to protect sources and methods. Say releasing files would compromise ongoing investigations. All the usual excuses government uses when hiding information. But judge might not buy it, might see through excuses, might appoint independent monitor anyway, and that would be game over for cover-up. Khanna and Massey's intervention request is brilliant strategic move. They're not asking judge to release files directly. They're asking for independent oversight of release process. That's harder to oppose, because what's argument against independent monitor? That you can't trust independent person to handle documents properly. That only Trump's DOJ can be trusted. That sounds like admission you're hiding something. And having bipartisan request makes it stronger. Khanna's Democrat, Massey's Republican, both led effort to pass Transparency Act. Both saying Trump administration isn't complying. Both requesting independent oversight. That's powerful. Shows this isn't partisan. Shows both parties agree files are being hidden. Makes judge more likely to take requests seriously. Thomas Massey is particularly important here. He's Republican who's been pushed out of party for standing up to Trump, for insisting on transparency, for supporting Epstein Files Transparency Act. MAGA Republicans hate him now, but his involvement in this intervention request gives it credibility. Shows even Republican congressman doesn't trust Trump's DOJ to release files honestly. Now let's talk about what happens if judge appoints independent monitor. That person would have access to all Epstein documents, everything FBI has, everything that's been subpoenaed, everything that's supposed to be released under Transparency Act, and they'd review it with eye toward maximum transparency consistent with law. not with eye toward protecting Trump or his associates. Monitor would identify documents that can be released without legitimate redactions, would call out DOJ for improper withholding, would report to judge on compliance or lack thereof, would put pressure on Trump administration to follow law, and would eventually release files that DOJ has been hiding. That's nightmare scenario for Trump, for everyone implicated in Epstein files, for everyone who's been covering up, because once files are public, can't put that back. Can't make people unsee what they've seen. Can't uncorrupt the corruption that's been exposed. Files would show trips to island, financial transactions, communications, all the evidence that's been hidden. And public would demand accountability. Congress would have to investigate. Prosecutors would have to consider charges. Everything Trump's been trying to prevent. Think about what that means. That's why MAGA Republicans are losing control, why they're throwing out every distraction they can think of. Clinton subpoenas, big trucks, Biden's prices, therapy centers, Greenland media narratives, anything to keep people from focusing on Epstein files, on judge's order, on potential independent monitor, on accountability that's coming. But distractions aren't working as well anymore. People see through them. Understand what's happening. Know that MAGA Republicans are covering up child trafficking ring, that Trump regime is violating law, that Epstein files are being hidden for reason, and they're demanding transparency, demanding accountability, demanding that law be followed. Bottom line is this: federal judge ordered Trump administration to respond to request for independent monitor to oversee Epstein file production. That's major development. Shows court taking seriously the argument that DOJ can't be trusted. That cover-up is happening. That independent oversight is needed. MAGA Republicans immediately went into panic mode, started throwing out distractions. Comer talking about Clinton subpoenas, Johnson talking about credit cards and big trucks, Scalise talking about Biden's prices, all trying to change subject away from Epstein files, away from Trump's cover-up, away from judge's order. But it's not working. People see through distractions. Understand what's at stake. Know that Trump regime violated Epstein Transparency Act, released only 1% of documents, is covering up child trafficking ring, and judge might appoint independent monitor to force compliance. If that happens, if monitor is appointed, files will eventually come out. Cover-up will be exposed. Everyone implicated will be revealed. That's existential threat to Trump and everyone protecting him. That's why they're losing control, why panic is setting in, why distractions are getting more desperate and ridiculous. They know what's coming, know they can't stop it, know accountability is approaching. Ro Khanna and Thomas Massey's intervention request was strategic brilliance, bipartisan, focused on oversight, not direct release, harder to oppose, more likely to succeed. And if judge grants it, whole cover-up collapses. Independent monitor reviews files, calls out improper withholding, reports to court, eventually releases what DOJ has hidden, and truth comes out. MAGA Republicans can distract all they want, can talk about Clinton and Biden and big trucks, can gaslight about Greenland and Powell and Renee Good, but they can't change what's in those files, can't make Epstein connections disappear, can't prevent accountability forever. Judge's order is step toward transparency, toward following law, toward exposing cover-up. And MAGA leaders know it. That's why they're losing control. This story continues. Stay tuned.